Hello and welcome to the beginning of Star Trek Lower Decks preview season. These decks are releasing on December 6th. There are going to be 4 of them, so that is 88 new cards being added to the format. And I know, obviously for Star Trek fans, this is really cool. This is something they've been looking forward to. For Universus fans that aren't necessarily Star Trek fans, these decks have been sort of just an enigma. They're often in space, kind of literally just somewhere on the horizon. They're just going to kind of be there. People haven't thought too much about them, but having seen some of these cards now, we should start thinking about them a little bit. This is 4 weeks away. Obviously, these are going to be legal for the Nationals and for the Worlds, and 88 cards that have some interesting effects, some relevant power levels. You're going to want to keep them in mind and pay some attention to what they're doing here. So, Sam Rutherford himself, the face character that we have seen before, but just as a reminder, he is a 6 hand size, 30 health, Order, Void, and Water. So we saw a little bit of Void from the Deku Challenger deck, but that has been, the 2 Attack on Titan sets, that has been pretty absent. So good to see Void here. And his abilities are, first of all, he can respond after a non-throw is played to swap its speed and damage. This is not once per turn, unlike some similarly shaped abilities we've seen in the past. So on the one hand, it is a response to play, so you don't get to wait for them to powerful and then mess with it after the fact. You don't get to reduce the speed to 0 and then, haha, I'm flipping it, unless you have some kind of, on-play trigger that does that. So probably sneaky good. In the enhance, same thing. This attack gets plus or minus 1 speed or damage. Any stat you want, plus 1 or minus 1. Not very big. Also possibly sneaky good. Right, neither of these are once per turn. You kind of just get to mess with every attack that gets played in a little bit of a way if you want to. Hard to know without playing him how good he really is. I think probably base rate suspicion is that he's not that strong, but he'd be kind of fun and interesting to play at locals and that sort of thing. But, that's fine. If, you really like Sam, you're like, man, I wish he was a little more tournament viable or whatever, that's okay, because we have Sam Rutherford, the Devron Racer. And this one is a little spicier. So this Sam is a 7 hand size, 21 health. He keeps Order and Void and swaps Water for Air. And he just has static. All your text attacks have plus 2 speed. So a bit of a standard model for a 7-hander, giving all the attacks a little speed here. But you do need to play text to get that. And then enhance once per turn, end of this enhance step. So more just kind of messing with things this way in a much more abrupt, more powerful once per turn, but obviously I don't need, if you've been playing this game, I don't really need to explain to you how good ending the enhanced step at will can be. Big cards like Armor of the Wolf, like even something like Badgy and Flurry out of the Deku decks, things that need multiple enhances to go off. Some characters like Paul rely on having multiple enhances, so even in a world where we have a bunch of blitz attacks, we're still in a place where just shutting down an enhanced step can be quite good. And on offense, your tech decks get this static 2 speed. You play a move, they're a speed reduction deck, they're a Rodon or something. You say, no, this one's basically Flash. I might get my blitz off even, right? You can get a blitz off and then end the enhanced step. Just really, really strong, potentially, if you find the right cards to go on it. And then as a bonus, if your opponent's playing really passively or defensively, trying to deal with, you have all this speed, this ability to stop them from doing anything to your moves, and they pass the turn with 8 ready foundations or more, you get to be an 8-hander and stun them 1 just for the heck of it. So this guy clearly has some potential. It's going to come down to what tech attacks are available. Obviously, these decks are probably going to have lots of them. They are Star Trek decks. So, we'll see which ones we can play. Once we see the full release, we can go take a look. Patchwork Baby comes to mind in terms of existing cards, so this guy's going to be very happy to play. Very, very interesting character here in Sam, the Devron Racer mode. So, 6 cards to go through after this, and mostly you've seen there's 3 symbols on all these characters. The cards in the deck are attuned. So we are keeping with the attuned things for these decks. I'm imagining that's going to be most cards going forward, at least for the time being, but we don't have a statement either way, but at least for these decks, we're looking at a lot of attuned cards. So we are going to get attuned cards, as you might imagine, for the Order and Void symbols in these decks, because those are the 2 symbols that are shared on these characters. And I think across the 4 decks, what we're probably going to see, and I'll explain this a little bit later, is Order, Void. I think it's Fire and Chaos or Life and Chaos, I think, are the 4 symbols we can expect to see covered here. I want to say it's Life and Chaos. Well, I'll check that at the end of the video here. But it'll be set up so that if you're buying, all 4 of these decks and you just want to be, a Star Trek fan, you want to buy the Star Trek Challenger decks, but you want to do a little bit of deck building, you can do some mix and match, because you say, okay, well, I have order cards from this deck and order cards from this deck and void cards from this deck and void cards from this deck, and do a little deck building without having to spread out into booster boxes or, you know, get into trying to evaluate what things on different symbols you have. You can just put your cards into your Star Trek cards into piles, mix and match, make the decks however you want them. So that should be an experience for the people that are just kind of challenger deck only buyers, to have more of a deck building experience than they've been able to have so far, really. So all that rambling out of the way, the first card we have is Badgy, the Vengeful Pal. I do not know a whole lot about this series or Star Trek in general, but, you know, pretty clearly some sort of funny mascot character. This is a comedy series. 3 difficulty, 5 check, asset, +1 breaker, 1 mid block, has the ally keyword and the tech keyword. Response after you play this card, build it. That includes blocking with it, by the way. You might not want to, though, because enhance once per turn. Oh, no, that's once per turn, your turn. Your attack gets +3 damage. Any player may play this ability. So this is a very weirdly shaped card. I'm imagining the your turn means it's still the turn of the player playing the ability. So if you block with this and you build it down, your opponent can then, on their next move, say, like, okay, I'm activating your Badgy to get +3 damage. But if you play them on your turn, you build them down, you get the first crack at this. So almost like a terrain without the terrain keyword, but very funny shaped card. If you block and build it, it's a little bit worse. If you just play it and build it, it's a little bit better, but both players are going to get these free +3 damage bonuses out of it. So, you know, pretty interesting. Just kind of accelerates things. I'm sure there's a story to why he is this way. But yeah, so that's Badgy, Vengeful Pal, and this is order attuned. We have Cyborg Slap, an uncommon void attuned. So here's our first peek at a void attuned card. 3/3, 2 low for 4, EX3 and tech, +2 high block. Enhanced hand to discard. This attack gets +2 or -2 damage. Very neat shape for a 3 difficulty poke. It is a 2 low for 4, which is fine stats for your little 3 difficulty move. Has a perfectly acceptable block. Has EX3. If you're buffing damage and you want to land this thing, you can just pile a bunch of speed on it. And if you're not really playing that long of a string, you don't really want to toss this thing out there during your attack string, you can always ditch it for +2 damage or on defense for -2 damage. Very, very, very flexible card. You never know with these 3 difficulty attacks how much play they're going to see, but this one feels like a pretty good one. Next up, we have Redirect Power to Shields and Order Attuned Foundation. This lets you commit and sack a foundation before you take damage from an attack, reduce the damage you would take by 3. So, sort of better, sort of worse than cards in the, was it Toughest Punk in Junior High, I think is this shape, where you flip it. There's some foundations that are like this that flip for -3 damage or flip to take 3 less damage. This isn't as free as a flip. You're committing a foundation and destroying a presumably committed foundation. However, you do get to do it over and over again, right? Once every round of turns. So stronger in that effect. Probably pretty good, especially in decks that want to do destroy effects for one reason or another. You can see Irwin decks running this, for instance. This one I would expect to see around a little bit as well. Next up, Strange Energies. This is one that we will probably see. This is, well, that's kind of all of these cards have a chance to see some play. This is a 0/5 action, tech action with a +2 low block. If you have anything that cares about the tech keyword, you do get to go grab this or count this or whatever you're doing. Response. After rival plays a blitz or a non-character enhance, cancel it unless they pass a 7. So very neat sort of almost early game only version of Nullify, except it's 0 and not 5, and not 3 difficulty rather, and checks a 5 and not a 4, and it has a real block. But your opponent can check a 7 to get out of it. So as the game gets deeper, this gets less effective, but this can be used to defuse some either, you know, potentially turn 2 defenses, oddly enough, but I think the idea is probably to help yourself defend on turn 2, but on offense, this would also be a thing you could play on your 3rd attack. They have a critical defensive ability. Might be useful, probably more relevant in terms of keeping yourself alive, but these cards do go both ways. It does not get out of your card pool, so if you are going to use it on offense, then, you know, it's going to make your stuff harder for the rest of the turn, depending on, you know, if this isn't the last attack or not. Yeah, again, you have a very relevant card. There's a lot of competition for deck space, especially in actions and assets and backups and whatnot, but you know, once again, a little hard to see this not getting at least someplace somewhere at some point. Next, we have the ultra rare or 2x attack Charged Alien Sploof. A little funny picture here. A 4/3/3 lo-fi with a +2 high block, another tech attack, of course. The blitz on this is your rival has to commit 1 foundation as an additional cost to play any enhanced abilities during the attack. So you don't necessarily, if it's Devron, Racer, Sam, you don't necessarily have to burn his shut down the enhanced step ability on this, because if your opponent wants to play enhances during this attack, go for it. But also, response, after you play this attack, it gets +2 damage for each other tech attack in your card pool. So if you really do just want to shut down the enhanced step, you can do that, right? Catch my 5 low for 9 flash at the end of my string effectively. All pretty good. You know, certainly going to be played in the Racer Sam. Outside of that, you know, 3 low for 7, 3 low for 9, a little bit scaling. The blitz is kind of handy. Maybe. You know, we'll see what kind of tech theme decks do show up. This does have Order attuned, which, you know, of course for me just says Chronostasis. Can we make a tech Chronostasis deck now with these sets coming out? This would certainly be a part of it. We get to play this thing twice. So, you know, and certainly a nice, interesting, relevant, playable card coming out of these Challenger decks. And I believe this is the last one we have for today, the USS Serpent, NCC-75567. This is a 6 difficulty asset, 4 check, has the ship trait, which is interesting. I don't know if we're going anywhere with that, or we just put the word ship on this. As a +3 mid block, so if you're not playing it, I don't know what you're doing with it. So it's quite a costly one. However, form once per turn, not even a first form, just at any point during your turn, you can say, I'm going to use my spaceship here. Reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. 1 goes to your hand, 1 goes to the bottom, 1 stays on the top. Just, you know, obviously you're effectively a +1 hand size with some deck stacking on top. Whenever you want to press the button, you activate this thing. It shares 2 symbols with Award the Victor for what it's worth. Say, okay, I'm going to go check a 7 now, on top of picking up the move I just stacked. Very, very, very costly, though, and I believe offhand this does not share with Rheumatic Slash in terms of ways that you can tutor it out. There might be some other ones, though. It does share, I think, 2. Mimic has Chaos Envoy? No, he's Chaos Earth Evil. So it does share 1 with Mimic, although I don't know if even Mimic's playing a 6 difficulty asset, but somebody's going to play the 6 difficulty asset to get this, you know, pretty wild effect. It is marked as an SR. I'm just seeing this now. I don't know what that means. That might mean that it's 1x in these decks. Probably not the kind of card that you would 4x anyway. I wonder if each of them has a ship. I don't know. We'll have to see what goes up in the other previews and what these decks ultimately end up looking like. But this is certainly a very, you know, spicy and interesting card to add to the mix. A 6 difficulty asset. And then that's going to bring us back to the start with Sam Rutherford. So, yeah, a pretty good start to a preview season here. I think these cards are all what I would call competitively interesting. They're all cards that I'm at least going to think about putting into some decks, if not, and almost all of them will probably see play at some point or one another. And, you know, we'll see what's going on with the other characters. The sort of vague posting of other content creators makes it sound like they're pretty happy too, so go check all those out if you haven't already. And stay tuned, you know, to both this channel and others. There's going to be more previews on the way next week. But yeah, until then, enjoy these. You know, let me know what you think. I'm going to go look at the other ones and have fun checking those out too. And until then, see you next time.